What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of my F122 My Team career mode. This time we are heading into a quick turnaround into the Monaco Grand Prix. And one note before we do get into the bulk of this is that this was actually recorded the pre 1.06 patch, so we will not be seeing all of the updates that came with that. So we will be heading into a Monaco week, setting our short-term goals and activities for the week in a couple of quick single day events, as this is an absolutely very quick turnaround, as we only have a few days before we head to Monte Carlo for the Monaco Grand Prix. We are looking to spend some of the $2.3 million that we have sitting in our bank account on some new facility upgrades. I think I finally come to realize that, you know, making money and getting these upgrades in as soon as possible will really help us in the long run. So we will be trying to do everything we can, trying to spend the money in our most effective way. I think the thing I'm looking forward to the most in actually getting on the new patch version is actually the personnel upgrades should be working now, and so hopefully all the money that I've spent up to now, which we are currently not seeing the benefits of, will actually take effect. We go ahead, spend some money on some quality control updates, and we are going to head into our R&D chart now and take a look at what we have going for us. We have a handful of things on some very hefty discounts. Unfortunately, our aero department is full up, as much as we would love to get an extra research item going, but we are taking a look at what we can, because we're always trying to have something going as much as possible, as not to waste any downtime in that R&D. But for now, we're focusing on Monaco, one of the true crown jewels of the F1 calendar. No matter what people on the internet say, Monaco is Formula One, even if the races aren't quite as, you know, interesting themselves. But I think the pizzazz and the energy around Monaco definitely more than makes up for it. It is also probably one of the most important and intense qualifying sessions of the year. It is going to be tight, it's going to be twisty, and it's going to be our first time around the streets of Monte Carlo, trying to do the best we can to try and build some momentum again after a couple of weeks of less than, you know, not scoring any points, as we officially move forward to race weekend. Unfortunately, one of our research items did fail, and so we'll have to get that re-going here before we actually head into race weekend. Our spark plugs upgrade was a no-go, so unfortunately we will not have those for Monaco. But nonetheless, we are going to head into race weekend and head straight into our best quality lap that we got in on our short qualifying session. We did our best around here, but this is a tricky circuit, especially when you add in the fact that it's our first time around the circuit. And so these tight, narrow, twisty chicanes, especially on this last sector of the track, can definitely give you a lot of pause. And as is very obvious as of right now, we are feeling the pressure and feeling the close quarters of these Monaco barriers as they try and keep us penned in as we actually finish qualifying all the way down P22. Unfortunately, we will begin at the back of the grid. But nonetheless, Charles Leclerc takes pole position in his home Grand Prix, followed up by Max Verstappen and George Russell, rounding out the top three in this short Monaco qualifying. Fittipaldi actually comes home to finish a couple places ahead of us as we head to Monaco.
A proper road race, and in the true meaning of the word. That's how Mr. Monaco, the late great Graham Hill, once described this iconic event. The cars we drive have come a long way in the intervening half-century, but still we race on those same public roads beside the Mediterranean. There's no victory more coveted than that of the Monaco Grand Prix. We already see the lowest average speeds of the season here at the Circuit de Monaco, and they'll be even lower in the difficult conditions today. 19 corners make up this famous 2-mile track, and with the rain, it'll be even harder than usual to get the critical heat into the tyres. So don't be surprised if we see a safety car at some point.
As we line up for our formation lap here in Monaco, we are in a wet one. And what better way to get our first taste of Monte Carlo than a trip around Monaco in the wet, as well as starting on the back of the grid in one of the hardest races to overtake on the F1 circuit. This is going to be a very challenging day ahead. Hopefully it won't be wet the entire time. I believe the forecast is for it to start drying up about midway through this race, and potentially as well as a little earlier on. We may have to be making some risks when it comes to strategy with tires, because I mean, starting from the back of the grid in Monaco is going to be a hard enough task as it is to do it the normal way. So we're going to have to do whatever we can, as our formation lap actually is a little bugged here, and we get a nice view of the Monaco barrier and a nice marshal waving the green flag as we come around to our formation lap. There we go, we're back. Charles Leclerc on pole, followed by Max Verstappen and George Russell just behind, as we pull up to our final position on the grid to go to 5 red lights. And away we go in Monaco, as they are on. A little premature. The lights are out and we are away. Now this is going to be a big first corner, as we actually get a very slow start here in the wet. Really struggling with traction, as we kind of send one up the inside a little bit, trying to get past Latifi here. He actually gets a pretty decent exit on us, and we are unable to hold the position. And man, you can just really feel how tough this is going to be as you look forward, and it really just doesn't seem like there's going to be really any space to truly get around anyone, especially as we get our first taste of the Monaco hairpin, as we run into an actual parking lot, as we send one up the inside after a little bit of a bump with Latifi, and we actually get another bump with Albon as we hit the absolute parking lot that is the Monaco hairpin. We get a couple of warnings from the FIA regarding our bumps with the two Williams cars. But this is going to be an extremely difficult task. We currently sit behind our teammate, and we are going to have to do our best to make the most of this little weekend in Monaco. As we head through the tunnel for the first time, really struggling with grip through there, and we come down to our final chicane as we see the procession around this final chicane. And this is, I mean, you can already tell just looking at the deltas, we are extremely lacking the race pace to truly make a difference here, as you know, we come out of the tunnel just behind our teammate, and already he's almost 2 full seconds up the road, as Max Verstappen takes the current fastest lap and starts his second lap, as we run a bit wide here on the second to last corner. And fortunately we don't take any damage yet, foreshadowing, but we will continue on to the rest of the race, as Latifi is giving us a bit of trouble as we hold him off down the inside. It gives us a little bit of a bump as Albon actually pits for damage. Hopefully it's nothing too serious, but that does give us a little bit of breathing room to the two Williams behind, as the gap to our teammate ahead has risen all the way up to almost 2.25 seconds down the circuit. And so this is going to be a very challenging circuit to catch up. We're kind of trying to keep an eye on the weather, as it does seem to be drying up a little bit. This is the point where I was talking about, where we may need to make a decision on making a bold move in terms of tire decision, as Latifi actually sends us into the wall, clipping us, and we actually lose a front wing on lap 4 around Monte Carlo, and that is going to be extremely unfortunate, as we lose a key piece of the car from Latifi just coming through us little too aggressively. And this is that opportunity that we're going to get, whether we liked it or not. We are going to be boxing to fix our front wing, as well as take a bit of a chance on some new tires. But as of right now, it looks like we may be joining Albon down the back of the pecking order around Monaco today. And it's going to get only more and more difficult, with especially finishing these laps without a front wing, as we can barely even make the turn and end up having to cut the corner slightly in that final chicane coming out of the tunnel. But this is the first true feeling that I feel like I've truly noticed without a front wing, how much that truly impacts the performance of the car. I know underbody is another thing that I really need to get to grips with as the driver, But here we will enter the pits for the first time to get our front wing fixed, as well as set our new tires. And this is where we are going to be making our first gamble of the race, trying to get out ahead of the rest of the field, getting off of the inters and onto the medium slick tires. This is going to be a bit of a hassle in the beginning, but if the circuit does dry up sooner rather than later, the pits is where we are going to try and make up as much time as we can on the rest of the field. So as we come out here on lap 5, 12 seconds down on Albon, and a long way to go. As we move forward to lap 8 here, everyone else has pitted, and unfortunately once again we take damage, and unfortunately once again we have to enter the pits. Monaco is absolutely not been our friend. As you can see there, our underbody is taking some damage, and our front left portion of our front wing has also taken damage. So we will once again, unfortunately and frustratingly, be pitting again to fix our front wing and trying to make the most out of what we can here. We will go onto the soft tires, trying to do what we can to make up some ground, but at this point we are running well in last, and we definitely have to start thinking about what the best option is for us moving forward in this race, especially only 10 laps in. Moving forward here, a couple more laps. We actually have been lapped just a bit, and we are definitely feeling the frustration of Monaco, as if you could guess it, in the process of dealing with the back markers, we once again take a bit of damage, and here we are trying to make the most out of nothing, putting on our last front wing as well as getting another fresh set of tires, and we are going to come out well past a minute down from everyone. And pretty soon we are going to be making a very tough decision, and the first tough decision of our F1 career. We are going to, take this out lap less than halfway through this race, a full lap down from most of the field, and the only one we are currently not a lap down on is Albon in the Williams. And we really need to make some decisions on whether or not this is the right course of action for us moving forward. It's unfortunate. It was extremely frustrating. It was at this point where, if you couldn't tell, that I had had enough. Monaco had bested me to the best of my ability and lack of my ability, and we end up deciding to retire the car, save components, try and save a little bit of face as Monaco gets the absolute best of us. And unfortunately that will do it for us in Monte Carlo, as a very, very frustrating day for us ends in a bit of a rage quit in the Monaco Grand Prix in our first time around Monaco, as Charles Leclerc comes home to win his home Grand Prix here in Monaco for the first time. Congratulations to Charles. It has been a bad day for us, but for the Ferrari driver in his home race to come home first is a very exciting result for him, as Max Verstappen and George Russell join him on the eventual podium. Congratulations to them on finishing their race around Monaco, as well as not running out of mental health and mental stamina to continue. So Monaco will have to wait one more year from us in order to make an impact, as this one we make the tough decision, but ultimately probably the correct decision to retire early from the Monaco Grand Prix, and we will move forward doing our best. Taking a look at the final standings here, it looks like it was fairly pretty ho-hum there in the top 10, with Lewis Hamilton moving up and Sergio Perez moving down more than a few spots, but for the most part it was pretty much chalk through this one, as Charles Leclerc once again comes home to win the Monaco Grand Prix. Fittipaldi comes home in 20th, and we start in 22nd, and we will finish in 22nd. As we take a look at the driver standings, there's us currently sitting in 12th with 4 points, and Charles Leclerc absolutely running away with it, as well as Ferrari running away with it in the constructors. This is definitely pre-patch, and if this patch evens out the performance of the cars like people are assuming it will, we may end up seeing some changes coming to the pecking order. As we move forward here onto our second Grand Prix of this episode, we are heading to Azerbaijan and our first experience around Baku, and trying not to make a fool of ourselves any more than we already have, unfortunately. So we will be heading to Azerbaijan with our tail between our legs as we try and go ahead and set our activity timeline for the week. We will, get our sponsor event done, some chassis equipment upgrade, focus, as well as some race simulations right before we leave for Azerbaijan. We are looking forward to trying to make up some ground after, I'll keep pounding on it because it is absolutely true, a very embarrassing weekend.
I know we were expecting
as the hits just keep coming as our R&D items that we had going that we were hoping to bring to Azerbaijan fail, it seems like, every single time. So unfortunately we will have to get those going again, and at this point we are seeing the fickle nature of entering the F1 system from the complete bottom. We don't have the same level of quality control. We don't have the same level of instant success that others might. So we are doing our best as we will head forward here and check out the very ending of our Pirelli hot lap. Now what this is really just a easy way to make a easy $100,000 as well as a bit of acclaim, and we actually get our speed check done fairly easily, and we actually take advantage of the walls here in Baku, around Baku, trying to keep our speed up as much as possible, as we will now head forward into qualifying for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Here is the best lap that I could put up around Baku. Our first time here, as is every weekend, we are going to try and keep it out of the walls as much as possible, and trying to maximize our car around this circuit. Keeping it out of the walls is going to be key. Keeping it up off of the curbs as much as possible as well, as that can cause some issues, as we will see here in a bit. But currently running around, we are currently sitting in P19 as it currently stands, having a bit of a good lap. Something I need to continue to work on both in qualifying and in the race is the level of smoothness that I do the inputs with. I think I have struggled with being very jerky movements and very robotic, to put it one way, where it's truly off of one input and onto another, when it should be a combination thereof to try and make it as smooth as possible. As we are currently running around the castle section, trying not to keep it away from the walls as much as possible, not needing to pull a Charles Leclerc and end up in the walls in that very tight mini chicane, as you might want to put it. As we head down to a full speed second portion, we are currently running about a second up, when unfortunately we are unable to keep it out of the wall. We're pushing a little too hard, and we catch a little bit of the wall as we will come down the final straight flat out around this corner, around the final bend, and we will make the long march back to the starting and finish line, trying to do our best to break that 1 second barrier, but unfortunately we will unable to do so. As we get closer and closer, we will cross that 1 second negative delta to come home and actually qualify P16 for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. As we'll take a look ahead at the final standings, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, the two Ferraris, topping the grid, and George Russell continuing his streak here in P3. We finish in P16, like I was saying, and Fittipaldi comes home in P20, beating Nicholas Latifi, as well as Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. That's a bit of a shock.
This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. Let's find out what lies in store for us this year It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The Baku city circuit measures roughly 6 kilometers, and it's made up of 20 corners and 2 DRS zones. The circuit winds around the narrow city, through the old town, and even brushes against the city's medieval walls. However, as beautiful as the setting is, this track is also a ferocious technical challenge, where the smallest of mistakes could lead to a catastrophic consequence for any one of our drivers. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And a very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Bottas, Kevin Magnussen and Verstappen, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Norris and Mick Schumacher, Ocon, Joe, Lance Stroll and Vettel, Perez, the rookie, Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo, Latifi, Gasly, Albon. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Enzo Fittipaldi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking.
As for the second time in this episode, we line up for our formation lap around Baku. Here are the things we are going to try and do in this episode to maximize our opportunities in Azerbaijan. Our first goal, keep it out of the walls as much as possible. 2, try and limit excessive damage to the front wing, as that has truly been the bane of our performance so far this year. You know, we have been a little liberal with the damage contained both by the walls around every circuit as well as other racers and other drivers. And so that is definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. I think underbody damage is another thing that we need to start focusing on more. I mentioned it a few times as we come to our final positions here on the grid. The underbody is definitely something I haven't been paying less attention to, and it really comes from, you know, contact with other drivers, and so we will definitely be focusing on that on the future as we hit 5 red lights in Azerbaijan. The lights are out and we are away in Baku. Now this opening turn is definitely where races can be won or lost, as we take a bit of a cautious line, you know, not really having the greatest start to really challenge for a great position. We actually do make up one. We will actually send one here, try and push Vettel a little wide, make a little bit of space as Sergio Perez forces his way around the outside, and we, you know, line up in P16, and we will stay in P16 as Yuki Tsunoda has a bit of a look. We will send one up on the inside of Sergio Perez, returning the favor, getting on the brakes and getting it stopped just in time behind Sebastian Vettel. We haven't looked around the outside, but seeing the exit, you know, the lines that they're taking on the exit of that corner, we don't really see an opening to try and send one around Vettel. We will send one a bit recklessly up the inside. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. These are the moments where sending one up the inside probably isn't the best maneuver to make, but right now our young inexperienced mind and driver trying to be a little too aggressive can really cost us in the long run. We get away with it here, but that's something to definitely keep an eye on going forward, as we get a bit of a terrible exit out of the castle section, and Stroll gets a fantastic one and kind of leaves us in the dust as we are looking to defend against the 4-time world drivers champion Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin. Here is where we took some unfortunate damage in qualifying. We successfully maneuver that turn as Sebastian Vettel sends one down the inside. We try and give it a bit of a switchback, but unable to get as good an exit as we would have needed. And so we find ourselves once again behind 2 Aston Martins with Sergio Perez in the Red Bull directly behind, and you have to imagine that he will be making his way shortly, unless he actually has some damage. And because there's don't really seem much of a reason that the Red Bull should be, you know, sitting behind us that long on the longest straight here on Baku. And so I have to wonder if he's dealing with a little bit of issue to keep him behind us. But that's a little odd, as you would expect the Red Bull to far exceed the performance of our car, to say the least. But nonetheless, we won't complain as we get a round battle going into turn 1, and now we have a bit of ground to make up on Stroll, who currently sits around 2 seconds up the streets, as we are hoping to settle in here. Lap 2, definitely feeling the pressure of another street circuit that has given us some issues in the past, as we are woefully and always waiting on the Red Bull of Checo Perez to make his way towards us as we head once again towards the castle section, trying to get a bit of a better line through here than we did last time. I think that section is another instance of similar that we saw in Monaco, where I was just too hesitant on trying to get closer to the walls, and so taking very safe, slow lines, as we actually see a caution flag as, oh no, who was that? Was that the other Red Bull? Someone was slow, someone was not having a good time, and it looked like it was the other Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Oh my goodness, what just happened? It was kind of hard to see as we get a full safety car deployed now. Oh my, a lap 2 safety car, as it is confirmed. Max Verstappen is out of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and it seems like now more than ever that the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc needs to really put some distance between himself and Max, especially with this performance balancing, as we'll call it, of the most recent patch comes in. So he will definitely be needing to really put some distance between him and take advantage of these, where the Red Bull reliability just isn't up to snuff, as the safety car gets a little wild trying to catch the leaders, and we almost actually end up catching the back of the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. But as we continue on, I actually jump forward after the safety car restart around turn 1. We actually move up a bit of positions, and we find ourselves behind the Alpine of Esteban Ocon, running in 12th. The safety car restarts are, if you can actually time it well enough, are a fantastic way to make up some places, as we send one once again a little recklessly down the inside of the Alpine, and we are currently running in P11 now, chasing our familiar foe of Zhou Guanyu, making our scheduled meeting with the wall, never being late, always being on time with that one. And we are chasing an Alfa Romeo for points now. This is an exciting time to be us, especially after a heartbreaking week in Monaco the last time out. This is definitely an opportunity that we need to take advantage of, really focusing up and trying to make the most of our time here in Azerbaijan. But nonetheless, we are chasing an Alfa Romeo of Zhou Guanyu and trying to hold off the probably far superior car in the Alpine of Esteban Ocon around the streets of Baku. This opening straight is definitely they're going to be the bane of our existence here, as we just lack the true pace to really keep anyone from getting around us, as Sebastian Vettel will send one up as we move up here to lap 11. We're currently in an Aston Martin sandwich with Lance Stroll ahead of us and Sebastian Vettel behind, and we're trying to hold our position as best we can and try and get too far away from the back of P10 Zhou Guanyu, who is currently 2.5 seconds up the road from us. And this fighting with the Aston Martins is definitely giving the front pack an opportunity to kind of pull away from us and make it a little bit more unattainable here on the streets of Azerbaijan. But nonetheless, it is lap 11. We are currently nearing the halfway point. We're taking some very dodgy lines through the streets here of Baku, and we are trying to create a bit of a cushion here as we find ourselves in a bit of a bubble, outside of DRS of Stroll, but not having Vettel behind us in our DRS zone. And so at this point, we are truly relying on our race pace, and as we have seen many a time, our race pace just does not have it around any circuit, it really feels like right now, as both driver and car need to improve significantly before we're going to be seeing anything too exciting as we continue on this F1 season. But nonetheless, we are going to do our best to chase down Lance Stroll, hoping he'll make just enough of a mistake to allow us an opportunity to get a good attack in. And we are currently probably at this point fastly approaching our pit window, and so we are going to at this point, as you can see there, our tires, our medium tires, are fairly worn, and it actually looks like we will take this opportunity to actually pit probably a little earlier than our original pit window, but at this point we are trying to undercut a bit of those in front of us who maybe have yet to pit, or at minimum trying to just keep pace with the pack we're currently trying to hold on to. I think that's something I've run into in the past, is trying to get a little too cute with pit stop timing, either trying to overcut someone or overcut the pack and really just falling too far behind with the lack of pace, or trying to undercut a little too early and truly just not having the longevity from there. As we come out of the pits, currently running in P19, but there are plenty of drivers who have yet to stop, and we are going to try and get these hard tires nice and warmed up as quickly as possible to try and keep the ground that we're trying to take from those who have yet to pit. So we currently find ourselves behind the McLaren and AlphaTauri of Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. These hard tires are notoriously terrible to warm up, and so we are going to try and be a little extra careful while also trying to do our best to get some heat into them to try and activate this rubber to truly get back into the race pace. As you can see there, these tires just slide so much and really just do not have any grip on this first lap out of the pits. And so at this point we are just doing our best to stay within DRS of Daniel Ricciardo and the McLaren to not get left too far behind. But that said, the McLaren, even the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo, who has struggled here in real life as well as hasn't been the most successful here in our alternate F1 universe, we find ourselves being attacked from behind by Pierre Gasly, who will have a look around the inside and will leave a little bit of space. He gives us a little bit of a shove off the track. We actually managed to stay ahead. Thankfully, the FIA will see that he shoved us off inappropriately and not force us to give the place, and we will head down this opening straight after having a bit of a cold, hard tire battle with the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. But nonetheless, as we approach and cross into the halfway point of this one, the AlphaTauri definitely has a bit more of a performance advantage than us, as we actually try and switch back on Pierre Gasly, who sends it back at us just as aggressively. We give him a bit of a bump as we actually come out behind Sebastian Vettel. It looks like that little, spat with Gasly has allowed the Aston Martin to come out ahead of us on a bit of an overcut. But nonetheless, our race is far from over as we are nearing the official halfway point of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and we see plenty of opportunity ahead as we see some yellow flags coming out here and there. I wonder who is getting a little too squirrely, as Zhou Guan Yu is out, and once again Gasly is just getting a little too aggressive as we near the castle section. Has absolutely done a number on our underbody, and this is something that was something that prompted me to mention it so much already this episode. It's something we've dealt with all season long so far, and it will come back to bite us here in this one in Baku. But the underbody has taken a bit of a bump from the AlphaTauri, and that will severely impact us the rest of the way here. And it truly, I think, will be a key factor in what kept us from being as competitive. And granted, we're not the most competitive car in the field at this point, but nonetheless, having that underbody damage is definitely something you can't afford around a high speed circuit like this, especially with some tighter turns that really rely on that underbody to kind of keep you sucked to the ground and get you through those corners as quickly as possible. As Gasly sends one up the outside of us, we kind of force him to run a bit wide and try and pull a bit of a Verstappen, kind of taking the line of, if he wants to hold that spot, all for it, but he will run into the wall. So either he's going to back out or we're going to crash. Gasly chooses to back out as our spat just caused us to make more and more mistakes, running a bit wide as we actually get a virtual safety car. I think this was actually caused by Gasly hitting the wall on our little spat there going into turn 2. And so I think we actually get this VSC just because of us. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of collect ourselves, not act a little too rashly and we're going to try and recompose ourselves as we head down to these final 10 laps of this Grand Prix. As you can see, we actually struggling with our delta, keeping our delta positive under the VSC, but nonetheless, with the final 10 laps ahead of us, currently sitting in P15, we see a fantastic opportunity to, if not score points, you know, this is something that we're just trying to work on our consistency as a team and as a driver. So, you know, if we can start P16 and finish right around there or above it, ideally, I think we will take that as a win, as we know that we're not truly fighting for, you know, we're not fighting for points yet. As we move ahead to lap 19, we are pitting. We are going to pit for some new tires, and there's actually some front wing damage that I think we may have sustained from a few laps earlier with Gasly, as well as just general wear and tear here around Baku. And unfortunately, at this point, we are trying to use this as an opportunity now to get some quick laps in, try and continue to work on our consistency in these high speed on these high speed cars. You know, this is the pinnacle of motorsport, and this is every opportunity is a learning opportunity, and so this is an opportunity we are taking to get some fast laps in on the soft tires, kind of similar to what we saw with Carlos Sainz in the France Grand Prix in real life, where he put on the soft tires and was absolutely blowing people away. Unfortunately, we are unable to set really any blistering times or really catch anyone, as Carlos Sainz actually comes home to win the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc unfortunately unable to get maximum separation between him and Verstappen in this one. But congratulations to the Spaniard on getting the win here in Azerbaijan. We will come home to finish in P20 ahead of only Zhou Guanyu and Max Verstappen, both of which who retired earlier. But nonetheless, we come home feeling fairly okay with the results here. You know, finishing P20 is definitely not where we want to be finishing, but at the same time, compared to Monaco just a week before, we will absolutely take an opportunity to finish a race, try and find some key points to work on. Avoiding damage is something that we have absolutely taken to heart going forward, as damage is going to 100% be a killer, as you know, having to either stop for front wing damage or suffering that underbody damage really causes a huge hit in performance. And so unfortunately, we will cross the line P20 here in Azerbaijan. Once again, a bit of an unfortunate and very disappointing result, but you know, trying to keep the positive attitude as much as we can. We are taking away a lot that we have learned from this one, and so, you know, we leave here feeling better than Monaco. Not where we want to be, but we know where we want to go. As we see Carlos Sainz celebrating here with George Russell also on the podium, and it's hard to see who finished there in P2. If I had to guess, it's probably the other Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. We will see here in a moment as Carlos Sainz wins in Azerbaijan. It is Charles Leclerc. Ferrari go 1-2 here around Baku. The only real change in the top three being the swapping of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc for P1 and P2. But Ferrari will be more than happy with a 1-2 in the Constructors' Championship. And Carlos Sainz closes the gap ever so slightly on his teammate Charles Leclerc in the World Drivers' Championship. And while it was not maximum points, Charles does open up more than an 18-point gap to Verstappen in the World Drivers' Championship, and is absolutely cementing himself at the top of the World Drivers' Championship. Finishing out the top five, we have Lewis Hamilton and his old teammate, if I saw that correctly, Valtteri Bottas, finishing out the top five in that Alfa Romeo, and it is the Alfa Romeo who actually ends up dropping one spot, having started in P4. But nonetheless, congratulations to Carlos and Charles and George Russell, as we will take a look at the standings here, and Charles Leclerc absolutely running away with it, and Ferrari absolutely dominating the Constructors' Championship here. But that will do it here for us on this one. I hope you enjoyed this little double header episode. We will be back next week for the Canadian Grand Prix.